My son's life was cut way too short. He was never able to marry and have children to give me grandchildren. That's something I can only vision in my mind.
Playing GTA in real life, or was it something else? A crime so blood-curdling, the murderer demanded the death penalty for himself. A deadly game unfolded among three friends who once bonded over virtual worlds. One of them demanded death for himself. What led to this tragic end? Welcome to the Mystique Quest channel. Today we will talk about the gruesome torture and murder of Chester Poage. If you are a true crime buff who enjoys unique cases, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Born on 4th of July, 1980 to parents Dottie and David Poage, Chester Allan Poage's name was chosen because his parents loved Wild West movies. They named him after their favorite character, but Poage went by his middle name, Allan, because his friends made fun of his name. A small-town guy from Norton, Kansas, he was extremely close to his parents and sister Samantha. His family moved to Spearfish, South Dakota, but their happiness was short-lived. In 1996, his mother filed for divorce, causing his father to commit suicide shortly after. Growing up, Chester was a small, frail child, but a member of his school's softball team. The team won a few games and even got his picture in the local newspaper. In his teens, Chester grew up over 6 feet tall. Aspiring to have a career in network communications, Chester Poage was a student of telecommunications technology in Northwest Kansas Technical School. Only 6 months away from graduation, the 19-year-old had his whole life ahead of him. Chester was a video game enthusiast and often played video games. Since he liked to make friends and he was out of his awkward phase, Chester made 3 new friends who loved playing video games just like him: Briley Piper, Allan Poage, and Darrell Hoadley. 19-year-old Elijah had a tough childhood, where he lived in abandoned homes without heat or electricity. Allegedly, he was also sexually abused by his mother when he was just 2 years old. Briley Wayne Piper, the same age as Chester and Elijah, had been convicted of robbing a classmate while holding them at knife point. He had also been arrested for unwelcome sexual advances toward a woman when he was just 13 years old. A year older than them, Darrell Hoadley had a daughter and had the worst story of them all. He had been severely sexually abused as a child by his mother and her friends. These 3 men were bad news, but according to Chester's mother Dottie, Chester had no way of knowing. He was just happy they were his friends and they had similar interests. In March 2000, Chester's mother and sister went on a vacation to Florida, leaving Chester home alone. He was there for his spring break, hoping to head back and graduate immediately after. Unknown to Chester, Allan Poage convinced the other 2 to do something horrible. It was the night of March 12th. The friends invited Chester to a house they were sharing. The plan was to hang out and play video games as usual. Chester drove his mother's Chevrolet Blazer to the house. Once inside, they dropped the act. Elijah pointed a .22 caliber pistol at Chester. Chester recognized it as his mother's gun, probably stolen from his home. They ordered him to lie down on the floor and kicked him till he passed out. When he regained consciousness, he was tied to a chair by a cord, with a tire iron across his feet. Despite begging to be let go, Chester was subject to the worst kind of torture. They made him drink a cocktail of beer, crushed pills, and extremely corrosive hypochloric acid. The young man survived this draught of death as they took his ATM card and discussed ways to kill him. He was then taken to Higgins Gulch, 7 miles into the remote woods of Black Hills. The men stripped him naked and made him walk to an icy creek, beating him along the way. They made him lie down in the creek and started beating him again, with Elijah stabbing him in the neck once.
My son's life was cut way too short. He was never able to marry and have children to give me grandchildren. That's something I can only vision in my mind.
Chester, knowing his end was near, requested that he bleed to death in the warmth of his car, then die in the icy creek. The three perpetrators agreed, but then Briley changed his mind. Chester was dragged back to the creek, and they began to drown him. Elijah was done, so he went back to the car. Finally, Darrell and Briley crushed his head with large rocks, ending his life. In the early morning hours of March 13, Chester lay in the freezing creek, betrayed by his friends, dead. The purpose of this brutal killing was robbery. The three men wanted no witnesses, and so they tortured and killed Chester.
Is the state's position that there was due process in state proceedings, that the evidence in those proceedings showed that Mr. Piper had a college degree, he had a high IQ, and that the fetal alcohol syndrome didn't exist or simply wasn't a factor?
They returned to his home and stole clothes, stereo, money, expensive electronics, and took his car. They went to Rapid City, used Chester's ATM to take some money, and pawned off the stolen goods. Briley went back to Alaska, while Elijah escaped to Texas. When Chester's mother and sister got home, they reported him missing along with their car. A hiker came across Chester's remains on April 22, 2000, in Higgins Gulch. Due to the decomposed nature of the body, only a forensic pathologist was able to identify it to be Chester. Police first interrogated Darrell, who immediately confessed to the murder. Officers then arrested Elijah and Briley.
We want to make sure that the family, and that is a victim's family, is given respect and given time to process those type of.
Elijah described the torture and death in detail, cooperating with the police, as did Briley. But Darrell seemed to disclose less. Briley and Elijah pled guilty and waived their right to a jury, and were sentenced to death on February 16, 2001. Darrell contested and pleaded not guilty, instead receiving life in prison. In August 2006, Elijah Poage sped up the execution process and stopped all appeals. Shockingly, it wasn't guilt that convinced him to die. It was the fact that he couldn't live life behind bars. The youngest person to be executed in South Dakota Penitentiary. He was executed on July 11, 2007.
In general, we have a responsibility to ensure that Mr. Piper receives due process, and we also have a responsibility to ensure that Allan Poage, his family, including his mom, Dottie, receive.
Now 43 years old, Darrell and Briley remain in South Dakota Penitentiary, with Briley on death, Rowe and Darrell carrying out his life sentence. Chester's death has been used in arguments against video games, implying that video games made the friends violent. But it can be argued that their intentions were marred by ill will and hidden agendas from the beginning. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below.